Thank you very much for staying on. Welcome back. Now, the Auditor-General, Daniel Domelovo, is demanding an action plan for ending the recurrent mismanagement of public funds. He's tasking the various audit committees to spearhead this to improve the management of the country's finances. He made a call during the inauguration of a 4-member audit committee for the Comptroller and Accountant General's Department, where he charged the members to focus on the root causes of public financial malpractices.
Be very careful. The accounts we prepare for 2017 is not going to be the same as that of last year, because this PFM Act is requiring you under the schedule to prepare accounts on the public funds, no more consolidated fund. As an audit committee, this is my personal suggestion. One of the value addition that we can introduce in this country is when the audit reports are out, there is the need to have an action plan as to how to address the systemic weaknesses which brought about the infractions. And I'll be very happy seeing the audit committees doing this than just looking at who didn't account for impress and who bought goods. These are the peripherals. Normally, it is weaknesses in the internal control that bring this. So let's not be addressing the symptoms, but let's look for the disease itself, which are the control weaknesses. And I think with that, we can improve our financial management seriously.
Deputy Minister of Finance Abena Osei-Asare, on her part, emphasized the need for the audit committees to be equipped with the requisite resources to realize this goal.
The audit report it has to work on reports that have been brought by the internal control function of any agency. That's why we are saying that they should strengthen the internal control section or division of their institution so that they will be well prepared, or they will have the capacity to do what is expected of them and also to discharge their duties effectively. And they also be able to report on all the internal controls or the system weakness in the agencies for it to be seen to, and then all these inefficiencies blocked to enable the agency work efficiently. So you will need the internal control. They act as checks and balances in any agency. That is why I'm saying that they should strengthen this division of the agency, and they will in turn write their reports and give it to the audit committee. And when there's any action to be taken or any action to be implemented, then the audit committee will advise management and see to it that management implements these activities to help the agency as a whole. In most agencies, people see the internal controls departments as a police or a check on them, that it's like they're on their neck. So many at times they are not well resourced. The things that they need, the implements and the resources that they need to discharge their duties effectively, it's not given to them. So that is why I'm urging them that if we want the audit committee to succeed, they will need reports. They will need to feed on the work of the internal controls departments, internal audit department. So once you resource the internal audit department very well, they will be in a better position to do their work and come out with the reports and also hand it over to the audit committees for the audit committees to work.
Now to our Budget Watch series, and fruit processing company Blue Skies has already laid off 1,500 workers this year in what officials say is a desperate attempt to cut down costs emanating from the depreciating value of the cedi, as well as excessive import of fruit juices into the country. Founder of the company, Anthony Pyle, says the situation is dire, and he believes he expects the new Marshall Plan to be announced in the 2018 budget to throw a lifeline to agribusinesses if they will help turn around the fortunes of the economy.
About 10 years ago, there was a major shift in the pineapple industry that actually sent many pineapple farmers, well, really going out of business. The issue was a shift from smooth cayenne to MD2 that was touted as the demand that the international market was looking for. Many farmers stopped production and died with the whole process. Government support for the pineapple sector, according to farmers, has virtually been zero, as smooth cayenne export figures stand at 3% compared to 10% in 2004. Blue Sky saved my business in 2004 when the MD2 shift began, Joshua Ayimboro tells the news team. Smooth cayenne has been a critical product to Blue Skies. The company invested in outgrowers to save their own company. So far, some 600,000 Ghana cedis has been invested in Joshua's 500-acre smooth cayenne business to become the largest smooth cayenne producer.
The industry is going down because people are running from the business because of they are not having any support from government. But I think there is a demand. As now I'm planting, I think I cannot meet my demand because the demand is higher.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
for a time they import pineapple from Côte d'Ivoire to go before processed and export it again.
the Planting for Food and Jobs program, which started in April 2017, included a gardening component for senior high school students. But before then, Blue Skies had started a senior high school garden competition. Products from the farms of the students have already been harvested and sold. 3 years ago, Blue Skies also employed a Kayaye, that's a headwater, who has risen through the ranks to become a team leader.
From Kayaye to being working in Blue Sky, it has never been easy. Since I got this employment, it has been great impartation upon my life. It has made my family life very good. At first, even what to eat was even difficult. That one is one point. Every day I always wake up and I say, God, me that I can even eat and leave some of the food there, then I'll be thinking of when to get the next meal to eat. But now I don't think about that again.
I met the CEO, Anthony Pyle, who says his company, built 20 years ago, is collapsing.
By June, July last year, and I would say for most of that period, we were running at about 3,500 to 4,000 people here. We're down to around half that now. I have a house, as you know, just a couple of kilometers away. And I can tell you, I am hugely moved by the number of people who come in and with tears pouring down their face to say, please, you are our father. I have no father. We have no business. You've got to re-employ us.
The 2018 budget will have to be strategic in its drive in the agri sector, especially if exports and agribusinesses are likely to be the target in the Agri-Marshall Plan. The city's so-called stability makes the import market more attractive to the deterrent of exports.
That's my app that tells you the difference between each day over the last 6 months, the CD and the local Ghana CD. Okay? You don't find any currency in the world going flat like that. Normally they do this because they're reacting to economic circumstances and what have you. This one is managed, and it's hugely damaging because there is about 12% inflation here. The fact that I have to import breast meat for our now 2,000 staff and rice and all the other bits and pieces of food that they need, I have to import it. And we can't grow it here when actually this country, it's a garden. This country can produce the finest food in the world, and yet I have to import it. Why? Because the CD is so strong that I can actually, it's better for me to import it than not.
So the question on my mind while putting this story together is, why will a company like Blue Skies be allowed to die when it has a track record of implementing parts of the Planting for Food and Jobs plan and saving the pineapple industry? The One District, One Factory policy hopes to show up Ghana's industrial drive when it comes to agribusinesses. Keying in the Agri-Marshall Plan and Planting for Food and Jobs, a lot will have to be said in the 2018 budget to save existing companies and new ones. Udile Ntiamwa, Joy Business.
All right, so that was our business budget watch series, I beg your pardon. Let's now remind you of some of the budgetary allocations government made to the various sectors of the economy in 2016. Now, the Finance Ministry has ruled out massive tax cuts in the 2018 budget. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is expected to present next year's budget statement and economic policy next Wednesday to Parliament. Government had initially indicated it could continue with its planned cuts measures in 2018 as it moves to reduce cost of doing business. But speaking to Joy of Business as part of our budget watch, Deputy Finance Minister said the same level of cuts will not be witnessed next year.
In 2018, you may not see that number of tax cuts. In any event, there's a limit to how many taxes you can cut. So you may not see that. But what we are seeking to ensure in this budget is that the kind of signal that we can send to business, that we are still relying on them to grow the economy, would be there, and to be there very clearly. So that is what I can say. You may not see the kind of abolition of tax lines as you saw in 2017. But as I said, there would be strategies to ensure that businesses are on board. As I said, the budget is still under discussion. We are engaging on these matters. We are engaging with industry. And when the budget is out, I'm sure all these matters will be clear. Well, industrialization and agriculture are big enough because industrialization itself comes with promotion of the private sector, the creation of jobs. Agriculture would provide jobs in itself, but it will also feed raw material into the industrialization processes. So those would be our critical focus. But already the free SHS is out, so human manpower development is key, and we're spending quite some money on education under this budget. So all those things put together, in our opinion, will create the kind of manpower that ultimately industry needs to perform, and then agriculture would produce the raw material to feed industry. It is only when Ghana's industries grow and we are able to add value to the things we produce that Ghana is going to be counted among the industrial countries and take our rightful place in the Committee of Nations.
You're live on the marketplace. Let's now turn our attention to the issuance of government bonds, and the successful sale of the country's second local dollar bond has reignited the debate about the real impact of this exercise on the economy. George Wiafe captures some of these concerns in the following report.
And through the three institutions that raised the funds, that is Barclays, Stanbic and Finance House Strategic African Securities, were targeting up to $100 million, but actually got $121 million more than targeted. So this can be described as an oversubscription of 122%. But has this brought up a lot of issues worth looking into? That is the fact that the market might be good for government to raise more dollars locally to finance its expenditure. And even as argued by some analysts that we could look at our options again in terms of issuing Eurobonds. Also, does this result support arguments that if a bond is guaranteed by government, it would always be successful? But does this open the door for companies with strong financials to also issue a local dollar bond? Mahama Idrisu is an investment analyst.
You have a strong balance sheet, your business earns dollars, which will be very, very beneficial to you than when you earn C. The best way is to get the best financial advisors to be able to arrange this kind of funding for you. All depends on whether you are doing business that earns dollar equivalent or dollar to be able to prevent you from putting pressure on the local scene.
It is believed that this will impact on the Bank of Ghana's dollar reserves, a development that could help in stabilizing the Ghana cedi, which is currently experiencing some challenges. Government is expected to pay investors an interest of 6.25%, translating into $13.84 million every year over the next 3. But as the country's interest payment is expected to hit almost $14 billion by December this year, the challenge for government is that everything must be done to stabilize the local currency so that it wouldn't end up looking for more cedis every year to settle the investors in dollars.
All right, so let's still stay with the bonds. And government has rejected arguments it caused financial loss to the state with the issuance of the ESLA bond. This was captured in a statement issued by the Finance Ministry following questions raised by ESLA paper. Now, let's get more on this because George Wiafe has joined me here to to tell us about this. Now, George, so what is the basis of government?
Well, the basis of this response is about the fact that the minority is saying that if this paper, this ESLA paper, was well structured, we could have gotten lower than the 19% that we paid on the 7-year bond and the 19.5% that we paid on the 10-year bond. And so that is the concern the minorities raise. Others are also raising concerns about the whole structure where we are hoping for funds to come in from the levy that has been put on every litre that you consume with respect to this ESLA levy on petroleum products, and that it wasn't done well that will give investors some confidence in terms of the payment of this whole bond. And that is why it was so high. But when you read through the statement, the ministry is saying there is not any basis for this argument because this is a corporate bond. And obviously, most situations, you have a situation where corporate bonds are a little bit higher than the normal bonds that are actually backed or guaranteed by government. And that is why we saw that rates going up by that amount or going up by that rate. So to draw a conclusion that if or the ifs we could have had it lower, there isn't any basis for that, and they think that that statement is actually flawed. And the fact that also we were talking about the fact that it's going to cost us 177 million Ghana cedis. There's even an argument that that is often tied to the amount of money raised as well. So if you don't raise all the entire amount of maybe 10 billion Ghana cedis, we're not automatically going to pay X amount of money to the arrangers.
All right, so is government touching on how to clear all the energy sector debts at this
When
stage?
you engage the arrangers, when you engage those firms that are helping government to raise the funds, what you get from them is that they were targeting 6 billion Ghana cedis from this whole fundraising exercise. You've gotten 4.7 billion Ghana cedis. I understand from the ministry and even the arrangers is that depending on the market, if the market is good, if they do the necessary engagement and they get the understanding that the rates could be low, they could issue another paper again by giving the paper to investors, and they in return will give government money so that they would pass on this money to the commercial banks out there and the suppliers to clear the thing. So they are still open to issuing fresh ESLA papers or bonds so that they would use it to clear the almost 10 billion Ghana cedis when it comes to the debts in the energy sector.
So for now, we shouldn't worry too much about increasing the public debts because it's not backed by government.
Again, that's what government is saying, that it wouldn't be put on government books. Okay. So it cannot be captured as the public debt. Right. Rather, they are borrowing on the books of this company, this fresh company that has been actually created, the ESLA PLC, and they are drawing their funding or drawing their monies to pay this from every levy that has been put on petroleum products when it comes to this energy sector act or levy or debts. And that is how we should see it. So it's on the books of VRA, but government indirectly is the sponsor of this whole arrangement.
Okay. So beyond this, I mean, what would it mean for power supply in the country? I mean, should this debts, if not well managed, recur? Does it mean that we're going to continue raising papers or bonds?
When you go through the prospectus that government issued to investors, you got the understanding of certain critical measures that they are putting in place to address this. One is about having this prepaid meters in most of the ministries, departments, and agencies. And you know that when you talk about this debt, it's about subsidies that government promised to extend or have extended to certain areas, and they've delayed in paying. And they believe that putting this bulk metering or this prepaid metering to these ministries will mean that we will be able to address this cost issue. So, for instance, don't be shocked if you go to the finance ministry if they implement this, and at that day they couldn't get their units and all this, and they will be in darkness, and that will put pressure again on the ministry itself to ensure that you manage your costs. You wouldn't leave air conditions on and all those things. Mm-hmm. This is one of the measures. It believes that it would again go a long way to address this issue where a government is delaying actually paying monies owed to ECG, VRA, when they actually extend what you call or sell power to them. Again, moving on, they are coming out with this new mechanism of revenue for these utility companies. And that way, it will help improve the waterfall whole argument that they put together. Then another way will ensure that we improve revenue for. Also, another critical thing is that how are these tariffs reviewed to ensure that it's in line with development on the world market. So they're going to put pressure on PRC to also ensure that we stick with the quarterly review of utility types, so that if it has to go down, it goes down. If it has to go up, it must go up.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank
George,
you so much,
for that
Yafe.
update. And George Yafe bringing us some clarity to the response by government the response against the minorities' argument that this particular bond issue would cause financial loss to the state. Away from that, by the first quarter of 2018, Intercity State Transport Company, ISTC, will take delivery of 100 new buses from 3 of its partners. As part of a restructuring exercise by government, ISTC is extending its terminals to communities in order to be closer to the clients. The state transporter also expects to be running an hourly shuttle service on the Accra-Kumasi route by the next quarter, the first quarter of next year.
By 7:30 a.m., the news team was at the ISTC yard observing activities. Buses were parked ready to go to various destinations, including the Accra-Kumasi route, which only resumed this July. It was evident the route had not picked up. Passengers going to Kumasi were not enough to fill the bus at the terminal. We gathered from the authorities later that there was a terminal situated at Circle, where the passengers will be asked to join others. Several of the passengers ISTC has are Ghanaians living abroad, and they would want some improvement.
Proof service I'm happy about is the way they drive. The drivers in particular. I mean, serving snacks in the bus too is quite okay. You know, I've been living in the UK for quite a long time. And then you can see these things in Africa. So I think it's good, it's okay. I mean, I really love it. I know STC when I was small. During my infancy, I used to travel with STC with my parents. So when I came back and saw STC coming back again, I was so happy. But they have to maintain it. That's the problem we have in Africa.
The amount of penny from yes, safety transport.
What I like about traveling with STC is that it is safer as compared to other transport services.
Transport apart from
I've known STC since my childhood, and everyone I know likes to travel with them.
To be a cop baby and one of
By 8:30 a.m., we were in the bus en route to Cape Coast. Inside, there was a coffee stand, internet service which was not working at the time of our report. We were set to move, and like it's done on the plane, the announcer laid the ground rules and the services available.
Welcome on board Intercity STC. We are traveling to Takrady and we'll be making a stop at Cape Coast. I'm Rachel Ledu, and there are facilities on board. There's a Wi-Fi connection available. You can connect and browse for free. We'll be serving you with snacks. So I'll be your attendant for this journey. Thank you for choosing STC. Enjoy your journey.
In less than 15 minutes, snacks were ready to be served on board, a cake and a drink. For the clients, the company will need to do more than just giving out snacks.
I think the station where we picked the vehicle from was a bit, I think they could, redo it. They have, baggages lying everywhere. Not everywhere, but, it just didn't look good where we were sitting, and baggages and mattresses, old mattresses and things like that. If they clear that place and redo, I think the image will be much, much better.
Now, STC is more comfortable with the introduction of the new buses. What's left to do is for them to advertise more and put measures in place to provide quality services for travelers.
Several of the issues were addressed, however, when we spoke with the authorities.
We have been prompted by customers and as well as well-wishers of some shortcomings or challenges, and we need to get our act well. Indeed, we know we will have to improve upon one, our help desk staff, of which they are going through retraining. We also know that our drivers will have to be up and doing and professionally. For once we know we've been tagged as a safe transport operator, we need to go in a better form of improvement of our ticketing by having the online, and currently we have the mobile phone transfer ticketing system, which is doing well.
So far, ISTC operates in more than 3 countries and hopes to expand further next year.
Internationally, we are looking at Niamey, Niger, where we have almost finished with the terminal, and we'll be getting some services running from Accra to that location, or that is the capital of Niamey. In this regard, these are some of the things that we have put in place.
But the local issues still remain. The look of the terminal needs to improve, and its publicity to attract lost clients will have to be vigorous.
And that was a nice expose on the services of Intercity Transport Company. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. I hope you've enjoyed every aspect of it. Do join us again, same time next Monday. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. Have a great weekend.